Cybersecurity can feel impossibly complex, right? It's just this huge, intimidating topic. But what if I told you that most of it, I'm talking everything from massive data breaches to global cyber attacks, actually boils down to just three core ideas? It's a simple framework that honestly unlocks everything. Let's get into it.
So, think about some of the biggest tech nightmares you've heard about. You've got a hack that leaks millions of social security numbers. Then you have some crazy malware that cripples international shipping companies, literally stopping giant container ships. And then a cyber attack that just knocks one of the world's most important websites completely offline. What could possibly connect all of these?
Well, it turns out they're not so different after all. Each one of those disasters is a catastrophic failure of one of just three fundamental security principles. Seriously, once you understand these three ideas, you'll start to see the blueprint behind almost every single cyber incident out there.
Okay, so let's start with the first pillar, the C in our little framework. This stands for confidentiality, and it's probably the one we all think of first. It's all about keeping secrets secret.
The big idea here is privacy. Just think of it like a sealed letter. It's meant for one specific person, and nobody else should be able to just rip it open and read what's inside. In our digital world, confidentiality is what makes sure that your private stuff, well, stays private.
And you know what? We actually deal with these confidentiality controls every single day, probably without even realizing it. When your messages are encrypted so only you and the other person can read them, that's confidentiality. When you have to use multi-factor authentication to log into your email, that's adding another lock to the door. These are the tools that do the work of keeping our secrets safe.
But what happens when those locks fail? To really understand the stakes here, we have to look at one of the most infamous, just jaw-dropping data breaches in modern history. 147 million. That's how many people had their most sensitive information stolen. We're talking social security numbers, birth dates, home addresses, the keys to your entire life. It was a failure of confidentiality on a truly staggering scale.
And here's the part that's just infuriating. It was completely preventable. The attackers got in through a security flaw that Equifax knew about, but just hadn't bothered to fix. And even worse, once the bad guys were inside, they found this treasure trove of data just sitting there, unencrypted. It was literally the digital version of leaving your front door wide open with stacks of cash on the kitchen table.
The Equifax disaster really teaches a brutal lesson. Confidentiality isn't just a nice-to-have, it's about control. And when that barrier breaks, the most personal details of your life are no longer yours.
Okay, so keeping data secret is absolutely crucial. But what if the data itself can't even be trusted? That brings us to our second pillar, I for integrity. Integrity is 100% about trust. It's the guarantee that the information you're looking at is the real deal, that it's authentic and nobody's messed with it. Think about your bank balance or a software update for your phone. You have to be able to trust that it is what it says it is.
So how do we actually maintain that trust? Well, a key tool is something called hashing. Now, stick with me here. Imagine you put a document into a super-powered blender. It spits out this unique, fixed-length smoothie of data. That's the hash. Now, if you go back and change even one single letter in that original document and blend it again, you get a completely different smoothie. This digital fingerprint lets a system know instantly if a file has been secretly altered. It's pretty cool.
But when integrity fails, the consequences can be absolutely devastating. It can turn something you trust, something you use every day, into a weapon against you. And that's exactly what happened with the NotPetya malware attack.
This attack was just terrifyingly clever. The hackers didn't try to break down the front door. Instead, they poisoned the well. They snuck into the update server for a very popular accounting software in Ukraine, and they injected their malicious code right into a legitimate, trusted software update. So businesses all over the country thought they were just installing a routine patch, but they were actually unleashing a monster that completely wiped their systems.
Yeah, the lesson from NotPetya is chilling. A breach of integrity doesn't just steal information, it corrupts the very tools we depend on, turning our own trusted systems into agents of destruction.
All right, so we need our data to be secret, and we need it to be accurate. But none of that really matters if we can't get to it in the first place, right? And that brings us to our final pillar, A for availability.
This one's maybe the most straightforward of the three. It simply means that when you need to access a system or get to your data, it's there for you. It works. Your email, your online banking, your cloud storage, all of it is completely useless if you can't log in when you need to.
And making sure things stay available is a constant battle. Companies use all sorts of strategies, like server redundancy, basically having backup systems ready to kick in at a moment's notice. And they build massive defenses against attacks specifically designed to overwhelm their services and just knock them offline.
To see this principle tested to its absolute breaking point, let's talk about a huge attack that hit GitHub back in 2018. It was a distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS attack. You can think of it like a digital flash mob, where attackers just flood a website with so much junk traffic that no legitimate users can get through.
Look at that number, 1.35 terabits per second. To give you some perspective, that is like trying to download hundreds of high-definition movies every single second. It was just an unimaginable fire hose of junk traffic, all aimed at one of the internet's most critical websites, with one simple goal: to make it disappear.
And you know what? For several very long minutes, it actually worked. The platform that millions of software developers rely on every single day just vanished. It's a stark reminder of our final lesson. When availability fails, no service is too big to be completely knocked off the internet.
So there we have it. C for keeping things secret, I for keeping things accurate, and A for keeping things accessible. Let's pull it all together.
So here it is, all in one place. You can see so clearly how each pillar guards against a very specific kind of digital disaster. A failure of confidentiality, that leads to data exposure, just like the Equifax breach. A failure of integrity, that leads to data modification and corruption, like with NotPetya. And a failure of availability, that means system downtime, like the GitHub attack. 3 different principles, 3 totally different catastrophes. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These 3 pillars make up what's known as the CIA Triad, and it truly is the bedrock of all modern cybersecurity. Once you know them, I promise you'll start to see them everywhere, in every security measure you use and behind every attack you hear about.
And that brings us to our final thought. For decades, these 3 principles have been the foundation. They've been our guide. But as our world gets infinitely more connected, we're talking AI, the Internet of Things, technologies we can't even begin to imagine yet, the question we really have to start asking ourselves is this: will these 3 pillars still be enough to protect our future?